we love a good victim story for ourselves. You know, if you take an adversarial conflict and, you know, one person goes to a lawyer and the other person goes to a lawyer, which is the mainstream way of doing things, nobody goes to the lawyer saying, I'm a complete arsehole. Everybody tells their lawyer the story from the point of view of that they've been harmed or wronged or they're about to be.
Yeah. And for me, I think that's the challenge of the adversarial system now. I think it creates these sort of very false dichotomies, which aren't, they miss the sort of nuance that exists within this. But also it comes back to my previous point about it loses the restorative piece. It's that disconnection that we have at the local level, at the community level. The adversarial system, I just think, reinforces that sense of disconnection to some extent. Yeah,
and so instead of, you know, because I think we're addicted to strategies, we don't look at the need. You know, the need is safety, right? The needs are safety, fairness, balance, justice, respect. You know, these are all the needs. We just keep addressing the strategy of, well, let's build a prison then, or let's chuck people away, or instead of saying, well, so we can put people in a prison and we can lock them up. How does that help me with safety? Yeah. Because putting one person in prison doesn't address that.
No. But I think we focus less on safety than we do on justice. And for me, that's problematic because justice as a concept is quite nebulous.
Yeah.
It's subjective. It's
very subjective.
What is justice? Yeah. You know, what does it look like? And it's inevitably going to look different for all of us. I think safety is a much safer concept.
Yeah.
That doesn't sound like an oxymoron, because actually it's without sounding like an empiricist, it's measurable. You know, it's something
it's a great way to begin a conversation, isn't it? So if we do X, Y, and Z, will you feel any safer?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think if we reconfigure around safety rather than necessarily justice, because justice, I think, leads us down those rabbit holes of maybe excessive sentences or sort of punitive framework, because it fuels the appetite.
Yeah.
Whereas if we sort of pivoted and we sort of work the telescope and say, well, actually, let's think about this through the lens of safety. What will work to make all of us safer?
Yeah.
What do we know? What does the evidence tell us?
Yeah.
And let's have whatever emotions you want, but let's just be laser focused on that. Well, we might get to a point where everyone feels a little bit happier about it all.
Well, you can, through dialogue, which, you know, you've proved and I've proved over and over again, is when people sit together and they look for a resolution or a solution or some kind of response to what's happened. There isn't a one-size-fits-all answer. I mean, I've always thought it's completely mad that you put a person in the dock and you go, murder, so that's, 30 years or whatever. Because some people, are never going to do this again. And some people, you can lock them up for 30 years and they're coming straight out to do it again. How can you can't go by the crime and then put a penalty against it. It's an individual assessment. But to come back to, energetically, when people get into dialogue to solve a problem together, you can feel energetically when it's hit a point that everybody settles. There's an energetic sense that you cannot get through hierarchical processes of just, let's sit here as humans. First of all, let's find our humanity, and then let's work to make sure that something shifts or transforms in our collective kind of focusing. And you just know when it's there.